Random House Audio presents The SuperStress Solution by Roberta Lee, MD. This is Roberta Lee. I'm tapping this out on my laptop under the sole light bulb in the dark jet bringing me home to New York from my month-long stay on the islands of Micronesia. I first went to these coral reef islands in 1988 when, as a newly minted physician fresh out of residency, I joined the U.S. Public Health Service and was immediately dispatched there for 5 years. My task then was to provide Western medical care to those who needed it, and when necessary, to bring the islanders to the main island for more intensive treatment. For the past 9 years, I've returned there for a month every year to do research on traditional healers, studying their vision of health and illness, as well as learning about their use of herbal medicines. Much of what I've learned and observed there has informed my medical practice today. I continue to be awed by the methods and philosophies of these indigenous healers. Tonight, as the drone of the engines pulses steadily through the cabin, I feel that all of my fellow passengers are asleep. I wish that hum could lull me into oblivion so I could tune out at least some of the 20 grueling hours that remain of the flight. But I can't sleep. And not just because I'm cramped in my airline seat. I can't because a nagging ache that started at the base of my neck is now radiating down to the muscles between my shoulder blades. I think I know why. With each passing year, my New York life grows exponentially more hectic and demanding. And I know what's facing me almost as soon as I get off the plane. As a doctor, I must react far more swiftly now than I did a decade ago, and at all hours of the day and night. My patients expect this, as they too seem to be caught up in their own frenetic worlds. Also, I know all too well that the serenity I have just enjoyed throughout my month-long stay on the islands will be gone the moment I unbuckle my seatbelt. In Micronesia, no matter how hard I work, at the end of the day I always feel a sense of peace and tranquility. And yet, each time I return to the States, I see the tranquility gap between here and there widen. While the islanders seem suspended in a state of calm, I and my patients back at home in New York City are getting more and more frenzied. Not only do my patients appear more stressed, they have started describing symptoms of stress at increasingly younger ages. It used to be that most people in the waiting rooms of general practitioners were there for treatment of diseases associated with aging, such as diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart disease. They were in their 50s, 60s, and older. And yet my patient population has been heading in the other direction. It now includes a growing number of 30 and 40-year-olds. Some people come to me knowing that they are terribly stressed, but not really sure why or what to do about it. Others come in describing what we now know are stress-induced illnesses. And yet, when I ask them whether they are feeling stressed, they tell me they're not. "I'm not sure what it is, doctor," said one patient who practically dragged himself into my office. "But I know I've got something because I'm not sleeping. I'm exhausted. Energy's gone, along with my sex drive." Another patient, a woman in her late 30s, a commodities trader whose office was very near where the World Trade Center had been, came in with a terrible case of hives on her chest and forehead, caused, she told me, by nothing she could put her finger on. She only knew that she was anxious all the time. When I asked her about what might be stressing her, she told me that nothing was any different from usual. It hadn't even occurred to her that her proximity to a place that had known such catastrophe might be psychologically weighing on her. These two people are hardly isolated cases. I regularly see any number of patients who are plagued with irritable anxiety, substance abuse, sleep disorders, and withdrawal from life. Many come in bewildered by what they are experiencing. Everything from digestive, allergic, respiratory, sexual, and skin problems to autoimmune dysfunction and heart disease. The great majority has no idea that stress is playing a significant or catalyzing role in their afflictions. All they know is that they've slipped over an edge, that they've caught something that won't go away. What they've caught is a menacing form of stress that closely resembles post-traumatic stress disorder, known as shell shock, when it was first identified after World War I. PTSD usually stems from a catastrophic life event, combat, rape, involvement with a deadly accident or major illness, that leaves its victim in a persistent, highly anxious state. After the original distress and emotional fallout, many victims gradually return to life as usual. But not all. For some, the stress persists. They remain off balance, their bodies literally in an at-war mode all the time. Most of my patients haven't suffered through the experiences that are so often linked to PTSD, yet their symptoms are very much the same. What's going on? About a decade ago, I decided to keep a closer eye on a group of patients who had been exhibiting a number of physical symptoms that more often than not came in multiples. They denied experiencing any unusual stress in their lives. After I talked with them for hours on end, it came to me one day, right out of the blue. These people had been living with extreme stress for so long that they didn't even realize they were stressed. Stress had become an invisible part of the landscape of their lives. And it wasn't just job stress. They had job stress and money stress and parenting stress and relationship stress and trying to find a taxi in the rain stress. Layers upon layers of stress weighed on them in increments so small that they didn't feel them separately. Here, right under my nose, was an insidious new threat to everyone's well-being, a menacing, 21st century kind of stress that, because it was beyond anything I had ever seen before, I gave the name SuperStress. It's not your grandmother's stress, that's for sure. Just consider the advances in technology we use every day. Between cell phones, handheld computers, and new communication modes like texting, we're on call 24 hours a day. Most of us spend long hours every day staring at flickering monitors, ever alert to emails and instant messages that demand quick replies. Technology isn't the only offender either. Noise pollution, even in the smallest towns, can cause stress in a major way. Have you ever pulled up to a red light and found yourself alongside a car that's blasting its music so loud that your car begins to vibrate? Your choices are A, run the red light, or B, sit there and take it. Television has been our electronic hearth for decades, but it, too, has changed. Today's programming unfolds at speeds that make our heads spin. We're blitzed with fast-paced sensory stimulation whenever we turn it on, and our nervous systems respond with a rush of arousal. TV sets are everywhere. You can watch Oprah in your local coffee shop, CNN at the airport, and the sitcom du jour in the back of your New York City taxicab. Professional and personal expectations have risen exponentially as well. In a culture that downplays long-term thinking in favor of constant, measurable productivity, our employers set frequent benchmarks that we must hit or else. With tough competition for slots at top schools, parents feel overwhelming pressure to manage their kids' every move, often at the expense of their own downtime as well as their child's. Add to these daily challenges the cultural backdrop, a 24/7 news cycle that keeps us edgy with terror alerts, corruption in Washington, devastating wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, threats of swine flu, anthrax, and lethal strains of staph, gunmen on the rampage in schools, mass transit bombings in Madrid and London, the tragedy of Darfur, and the list goes on and on. Biologically, the human species hasn't evolved beyond island time, and yet we're expected to increase the pace of our activity by orders of magnitude just to keep up. We can't do it, not without paying a price. And that's because the hard wiring of our brains and bodies is the same as it was in the days of our ancestors, even while change accelerates all around us. For example,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?